Today on Tracey's Basement, you guys asked the questions, now it's time for the answers. Welcome back to Tracey's Basement. It has been about a month and maybe a week since I posted my Q&A announcement video. Now it is time to actually answer the questions. So I have not an enormous amount of questions, but a pretty good variety of questions. Lots of questions about Funkos, but there's also stuff about specific fandoms and different things, so I'm pretty excited to actually just get to the answers, so let's get to it. I will let you know who asked the questions, and I will apologize in advance if I pronounce anybody's name wrong. I'm really sorry. Okay, so right out of the gates, Charles Campbell asks, what pops are you looking forward to? Well, what pops am I not looking forward to? Okay, seriously, right off the bat, I don't actually know if these are being made anymore. The original announcement that I had seen was not an official announcement. It was just kind of a prototype image of what they might look like. But I was super excited for Sailor Moon pops. Sailor Moon was like a huge cartoon of my childhood. It was one of the first anime that I had ever seen. Unfortunately, it was kind of massacred by YTV, but I loved it as a kid, and recently I actually went and watched Sailor Moon Crystal, which is like the remake version, and I really enjoyed it. I didn't think I was going to enjoy it because the animation is a bit different, and they basically took like 2 or 3 seasons worth of Sailor Moon and crammed it into half as many episodes as one season used to be, so I thought that would probably destroy it, but I actually really enjoyed it. They did a really good job with it, so that was lots of fun. And so I was really hoping to be able to add those characters to my collection, even if it was just the original 5. I would also love to have, Chibi Sailor Moon and Pluto, Neptune, Uranus, Tuxedo Mask. I would love to have all of them, but even if I could just get the original 5 characters, that would be so cool. I loved Sailor Moon so much, I can't express that enough, so I thought that would be really awesome to be able to add them to my collection, and unfortunately I don't know if that's still happening or not. I haven't been able to find any actual official announcement that they are going to be made, so if you guys know, please let me know. In addition to them, I am really looking forward to the Mega Man pops. Mega Man was actually going to be on my list of, why the hell aren't these pops made? And then they announced them, and I was like, yeah, that's so cool. Particularly because my husband is a huge Mega Man fan, one of the biggest video games of his childhood, and you can't find a lot of Mega Man stuff that doesn't cost a clear fortune. You might find little figures, they're nice looking, but they're about yay big, and they want like $100 for them. So, no, just ridiculous. I have found a couple of things over the years, and he did pick up an amiibo when he saw one of those, so that's pretty cool, but you can't find much Mega Man stuff that's not outrageously priced and or not that great looking. So I was happy to hear about the pops because that'll just be one more thing that we can get, and it's an interesting line to start because there are so many possible bad guys that they can make. So yeah, I was really excited to hear about that, and we will definitely be picking up Mega Man for sure. And finally, I will say that I am very excited for more Deadpool because it's Deadpool. I know a lot of people are actually kind of annoyed with all the Deadpool pops that have been announced because it's just such an oversaturation. There was already a ton of him, and now there's going to be a ton more for the movie. So yeah, I do get he's totally oversaturated, but I personally love Deadpool, so I'm excited for more versions of him. Okay, second question. Jack Lynch asks, are you thinking of buying a 9-inch pop vinyl? Not really. I have no actual particular plans to at any point pick up a 9-inch pop vinyl. I don't even know if I've ever really seen one in the wild. They're on the websites and everything, but I don't think I've ever actually found one in a store. Regardless, it's not something I am actively looking for. They wouldn't even fit on my shelf at all, so I'm not actively looking to get a 9-inch pop vinyl. But if I were to get one, it would definitely be Batman. Next, Toby Larson asks, do you have any vinyl idols? I do not. Not yet. They aren't something that I'm looking to get into, really. They aren't something that I'm really looking to have a lot of or anything like that. But there are a few that I would pick up if I saw them around. Particularly, I would really like to get the Young Frankenstein ones. Young Frankenstein is one of my and my husband's favorite movies of all time. We watch it every Halloween. I laugh my ass off every time I hear Frodrick. It just kills me every time. And I think the vinyl idols of those characters look pretty neat. So I would like to get those, especially since you can't really find anything collectible of that movie. So if I do see them around, I will definitely pick them up. Lord Aiden 86 asks, do you watch South Park? Not really, but kind of. I watched it a lot when I was a kid. I can't remember if it was on Saturday night or Sunday night, but you had to stay up till like midnight to watch it. And this was when I was in junior high, I think, maybe the first year of junior high, like grade 7. And my friends and I used to stay up and watch it. And it was this big thing. Oh my god, they curse so much and they do the weirdest, grossest things. And it was just this amazing show, right? Over the years, I stopped watching it, but I do actually still occasionally watch it when there's an interesting sounding episode out. I really like the ones that are like a major play on something that is big in society at the time. The Freemium Games episode was just spot on perfect. It did really, really just... I laughed my ass off. I don't know what else to say. They make such good points about things that are actually happening in society, and it cracks me up. Even though it's still the same show, you know, with the overwhelming profanity and the random, just completely gross nonsense. But they make such good points about things. I loved the Freemium Game episode. I loved the Black Friday episode. I loved the gluten episode. Just... stuff like that cracks me up so much. And Lord Eden also asks, did you watch Terminator Genesis? I did. I don't have too much to say about it. I didn't think it was as horrible as some people made it out to be, but I didn't think it was very good either. I really, really loved the first original 2 Terminator movies, but with the ones that have followed, I just think that they're really forcing it. They're coming up with some pretty silly workarounds to try to get past all the time travel and everything, and I think just at this point it's getting silly and it's just being forced. So yeah, it was entertaining for one night, but I will probably never watch it again. Fleeticus asks, do you like Harry Potter? If so, what is your favorite film and book? I do like Harry Potter. I think you guys can see... they might be slightly out of frame, but I think there's... You might be able to see the tops of some of my Harry Potter pops. I was a huge fan of both the books and the movies. If I were to pick a film, it's actually kind of hard. Because the films did get better in, production value and all that kind of thing as they went along, but as they went along, the books were longer, so they could fit less in there, and, over time they would cut things out that I personally would have liked to see. I think a lot of fans would say the same thing. Things that they cut out that weren't necessarily really important to the plot, but they were important to the people watching. So a lot of the, probably from the third movie on, it just felt so rushed. They were trying to get in the important stuff, they were leaving out stuff that we would have liked to see, and they were still super long movies, so that was kind of annoying to deal with. However, for that exact reason of, the books being too long and not being able to fit it all in, they decided to split the final movie, and it did, at the time, feel like this huge cash grab. Oh yeah, you're trying to extend the life of the movies and, make more money and all this kind of thing. And that is probably the main reason behind it. However, in the end, I thought it was a good decision because they were able to fit more of the important parts of the books by having two separate movies. So all that said, I think the favorite film that I would pick would be Deathly Hallows Part 2, mainly because it was full of all that traumatic goodness, the battle and the death and this and that, and maybe it makes me sound psychotic, but that's the kind of stuff I love.
Here, your wonderful and loving husband just brought you a present.
Thanks. And picking a favorite book is a little bit harder because I genuinely loved them all, but if I had to pick one, I think I would go with Prisoner of Azkaban, simply because I loved the Sirius Black character, and that's where he first appeared. Okay, so Radcliffe Ryder has 4 questions, and the first one is, what are your thoughts on store exclusives? Presumably he's talking about Pops, since that's what I mainly collect. And I'm not overwhelmingly for or against them. I just think that there's way, way too many of them. This might not be necessarily super accurate, but as of a search on Pop Price Guide, it shows me that there's over 150 store exclusives for Hot Topic alone with the Funko Pops. That's a lot, and it doesn't count, there's exclusives for Target, for Walmart, for Entertainment Earth, for Fugitive Toys. There were exclusives for different conventions. Amazon has some. Subscription boxes have some, Loot Crate does some, Smuggler's Bounty, Marvel Collector Core. So just basically there are so many exclusives. It makes it super difficult to actually finish a line. For instance, if all you were into is Doctor Who, there are multiple exclusive Doctors for each of the Doctors. There's exclusive Daleks, Dalek. There's even an exclusive TARDIS. So that's just that one little line. If you're into something like DC, there are 8 million different versions of Batman, and many of them are exclusives. So it makes it really difficult if you're trying to, finish a line, have a complete collection of some sort. And in addition to that, when you look at something like Hot Topic, okay, they have all these exclusives, but they're not exclusive in the sense of being, really special and worth anything, because they make a billion of them. Everybody has them. So they don't really have that feel of the exclusivity. You feel special for having it because it's not that hard to get. So yeah, it really depends on your opinion of, do you get the exclusives because you want to be one of the only people that has them, or do you just get them because you think they look cool? And again, if you are trying to complete a line, depending on where the exclusives come from, that can be really, really difficult. So yeah, I'm not terribly for or terribly against them. I just think that there's way more than there should be, and certain exclusives are just super easy to get, so it kind of makes you wonder what's the point. In conclusion, exclusives are pretty cool, but they also can be a major pain in the butt. Radcliffe Ryder's second question is, which subscription box do you think is the best for pop collectors? And that really depends on what you are into specifically. If you are somebody who collects only Marvel pops, then obviously Marvel Collector Corps makes the most sense because they have exclusive pops. Same difference for if you're into DC, you can get the new Legion of Collectors box that's going to be DC exclusives. Loot Crate occasionally has exclusives, but they are random depending on what their theme of the month is. If you're into pops in general and you're looking for a wide variety of different kinds of pops, Pop in a Box is definitely the best one that I can think of because they send you anything and everything based on what things you have added to your wish list and which pops you have told them you specifically do not ever want to get. And you can get between 1 and 12 pops a month, so you can just have that one little pop showing up in your mail every month, or you can have just a buttload of pops showing up every month. So you can really build a collection fast if you want to go for the 12, up to 12 pops a month. And it's basically anything and everything, right? You can theoretically get exclusive 6-inch pops, all that kind of stuff, based on, those two things. You're mostly probably going to get the super common stuff that is available because it's all based on what they have in their warehouse at the time. But again, depending on what you've said you want versus what you've said you don't want, you can get anything in that box. I have thus far gotten Star Wars, Marvel, Doctor Who, My Little Pony, all kinds of stuff. Yeah, just different Disney ones. Just, there's such a huge variety of things that you could possibly get. And you have to keep in mind, of course, that if you are somebody who is an in-box collector and you want your boxes in pristine condition, Pop in a Box can't guarantee that. They don't have super expensive shipping options where, everything is wrapped up pristinely. So you've got to realize that things may show up a little bit busted up, corners banged in and that kind of thing. And if you are somebody who, when you have an exclusive, you want to be able to see that it's exclusive, have that sticker on it that shows exactly where it came from. You have to realize as well that that's not a guarantee with Pop in a Box. You may get exclusives, but they may not have the sticker on them. So that's just something to keep in mind if you are that kind of collector. But in general, I think if you are a pop collector who likes a wide variety of things, Pop in a Box definitely way up there with the subscription boxes that you could subscribe to. Radcliffe's third question is, do you think it is immoral to hoard pops strictly for resale and not for the appreciation of the figures? Short answer? Yes. I personally think that if you hoard anything specifically for resale purposes, you're a bit of an arsehole. The example that originally came to mind when I read this question, it doesn't have to do with pops exactly, but on Black Friday when I was waiting in line to purchase some stuff, I got to talking to the guy in front of me, and he was commiserating that his son, who is only like 5 years old, he really wanted this specific amiibo for Christmas. And it was a sin because that specific amiibo is one of the ones that flippers have gone and completely cleared every shelf in every store. So you can't find this amiibo anymore unless you want to go online and pay like between $80 and $100 for it. And this poor guy, his kid wanted this $15 figure, and if he wanted to get him for Christmas, it was the option of basically spending an ass ton of money. And that was really ridiculous. I felt so bad for this guy because he was like, it's the one thing he wants, and I can either disappoint him or spend a ridiculous amount of money on a little toy, basically. So that was the example that came to my mind because it's kind of the same thing with the pops. You have these pops coming out that people really want, and flippers go and completely demolish an entire store so that they have them all and nobody else can get one, and then they go online and they want to sell them for 3, 4, 5, 6 times what they're actually worth, and that drives me foolish. Unfortunately, this is the kind of thing that happens with all collectibles. It's something that as a collector you have to deal with, but that doesn't make it any less frustrating. And the thing is, too, is if you're a collector and you are wandering through a store and you happen to see something that you know is worth a lot, and there's one of it sitting on a shelf there, and you go and you pick it up and you trade it to somebody for something else or something like that, that's fine. I'm okay with something like that. What frustrates me is when people know that something is going to be popular, so they rush to the store and buy every single one, and they hoard them away in a room somewhere, and they only dole them out for X number of times the original price. That just makes you an asshole. And Radcliffe's last question is, in what ways do you think Funko and other collectible companies can improve in the future? So, I know this is something that's not going to happen, especially with Funkos being as hugely popular as they are right now, but it would really be nice if they would slow down a bit and focus more on quality than quantity. Funko is just pouring out the pops for the past while, just pouring them out. And that's not to say that the quality on them isn't good, but you do occasionally see ones where you can't find one without paint errors, bobbleheads broken and that kind of thing. And it's annoying because they pour out so many, and you think, maybe quality control would be a little better if you weren't just rushing to get out as many different ones as humanly possible. And from a collecting standpoint, it's a little bit annoying when, a line comes out and I'm like, hey, I really like that line, and say it has 5 or 6 pops. Okay, I go out, I get the 5 or 6 pops, I spend whatever 5 or 6 pops will cost. You blink, you turn around, all of a sudden they have 10 new ones in that line. You blink, you turn around, oh, there's 10 exclusives over here. And it's like, oh my god, where are they all coming from? And just from a collector standpoint, it's a completionist's nightmare. They just keep coming. And I love them. I love collecting them. But when you're trying to complete a line, and they just keep throwing more out, and there's characters that you don't even really care about, and it's just like, oh my god, okay, slow down. Moving on to somebody else, Lava Magma asks, what pop vinyl do you own that is worth the most? Okay, first of all, I just want to mention that I personally don't collect for value. I pay very little attention to the value of the pops. I just collect because I love them, and I personally think that if you're collecting for value, you're probably going to be disappointed at some point. I don't know how many of you guys watching remember Beanie Babies. They were supposed to be so valuable. They're worth absolutely nothing now. And that's the way a lot of things like this go, is, they might be worth a lot now. If you are trying to sell them now, you might get a decent amount of money for them, but if you're going to hold on to them for, 10, 20 years, chances are they're not going to be worth anything. And to actually answer the question, this, according to Pop Price Guide, is currently my most valuable pop. This is Benson from Regular Show, and as of Pop Price Guide, he is currently worth $135, something like that. And of course, that's based on what people are willing to pay, so it all depends on the individual collector. But he is currently my most valuable pop, and after him, my Power Rangers and my 4-pack Ghostbusters with the marshmallow fluff on them, they are next in line for most valuable. Just in case you're interested. Okay, so the Lawn Gnome asks, you clearly love pop culture as a pop collector, so what else in terms of your interests would you be willing to share with your followers and friends? So at first I didn't really know how to answer this question, but then my husband and I started planning content for the future. So now I can tell you, based on what's going to be on the YouTube channel, that some of the other stuff I'm willing to share is a love of movies, a love of video games, maybe a love of books and comics. So in the future, I'm going to be doing some movie reviews. I'm going to do different collectibles, and we're thinking about doing some video game capture stuff where I'm playing old video games and stuff. related to things that we collect. Some people have asked me about reviewing things like books and comics, so I might do that as well. Just basically, there's going to be a bunch of different stuff, hopefully, in the future, other than just collectibles. Because I'm basically just a huge nerd, and I love all kinds of nerdy things, so surely there's a lot of stuff that I can talk about on the channel. And related to that answer, Adrian Moreno asks, would you do a review/summary of those Star Wars comics you have in the bookcase? And the answer to that question is maybe. I'm putting it on the list for sure, but I haven't actually read most of those comics, so it's not going to be an anytime soon kind of thing. But it's definitely on the list because I do want to read them, and why not review them while I'm at it, right? Paris Lavender asks, what is your biggest pet peeve cliche? And man, that is a hard question. There are lots of possibilities. The thing that I eventually decided to settle on is convenient nonsense science. Obviously, when you're doing something with science fiction, futuristic movies, all that kind of thing, obviously they're going to make some stuff up and just hope that nobody notices, right? But it's a bit of an annoying peeve in the back of my brain when they make up something that is so complete nonsense that the educated person in me is screaming, saying, that's complete bullshit, that would never happen, there's no way. Obviously, that's something that you have to kind of get past if you're going to be watching something like, say, Doctor Who. But for me, it's most frustrating when it's a convenience thing, when it's an excuse for poor writing. The writers didn't want to really think about it, so they just threw in something super convenient that is complete nonsense. That's when it bothers me. I can suspend disbelief, but when it is very clearly an excuse for poor writing, that really bugs me. Anna Mackenzie asks, what is your favorite episode of Star Wars, and what are your opinions of The Force Awakens? Picking a favorite Star Wars is really hard. It is not any of the prequels, right off the bat. But if I had to pick out of those 3 original movies, I definitely think that it's Return of the Jedi, simply because I love the completionist part of the story. I love the endings. I love, the 2 lovers finally get together, the big final battle, the redeemed bad guy, the conclusions. I love the conclusions of stories, and Jedi had so many of them all at once that I think that's what makes it my favorite personally. As far as The Force Awakens, I really liked it. I thought it was a lot of fun. I just really enjoyed it in general. However, I do personally feel that it was A New Hope, The Next Generation. Like, so much of it was basically like a rewrite of A New Hope. Obviously, there were some major differences and, new characters and all that kind of thing, but that's the feel that I had coming out of it, was they basically took A New Hope and gave it to a younger generation of characters. That's not necessarily a bad thing. Feels maybe a little bit lazy. But in general, personally, I really liked it. I enjoyed it. I thought it was lots of fun. Jason Tobin asks, where did you find such a wonderful and loving husband? Trying real hard not to be saucy here. We met in high school. We weren't really friends in high school, but we hung out a lot in college. And we have a lot in common. We like the same things. We have similar viewpoints. And he's an enabler. He buys a lot of Funko Pops for me. And for the record, he is actually the heart and soul behind the reboot of this channel. Couldn't have done it without you, babe. Mwah. And the last 2 questions come from William White. First, he asks, I was wondering if you are working on another novel, and if so, what kind? So, if you guys don't know, I am a published novelist, self-published. I don't consider that to be any less published than traditional published, just so you know. It is a zombie apocalypse novel called Nowhere to Hide, and there is a link at the very bottom of the description box if you are interested. It is available on Amazon and Kindle. And I am in fact working on another one. This one is not zombie-ish. I am actually working on a 4-part series, kind of a young adult fantasy series. It's something that I have actually been writing since the second year of college, and it has gone through so many rewrites. It has never been finished. I have changed virtually every aspect of it, but I eventually came to the conclusion that it would be best as a series, and I'm going through this whole crazy rewrite revision process. Right now I am almost finished with the first draft of book 1, and that'll be going on to a beta reader so that I can start book 2. And it may change once or twice before the actual publication process occurs, but it is currently known as The Other World. It's a parallel universe, kind of a storyline. Look forward to possibly hearing about that in the future. And William's second question is, being a writer, I read a lot, and I was wondering if you do too. I do not read nearly as much as I used to. When I was a kid, I read like you wouldn't believe. At the elementary school I attended, they used to have these little contests in the summer. I don't remember if there was really any prize or anything, but it was just basically see how many books you can read throughout the summer while you're out of school, and I would just demolish those. I would read so many books. The library was right outside the school. I would go there like every day after school and pick something up, and my parents just bought me mounds and mounds of books. I was obsessed with the Babysitters Club when I was really young, 10-ish, and I had so many of those books. I cringe to think how much money my parents spent on books over the years. And I still am a big reader. I just don't read as much because obviously, I have a job, I have a kid, I have lots of things that I have to take care of before sitting down with a good book. But I do still read as much as I can. I really like horror books, scary stuff, and goofy kind of horror stuff as well. I recently read Apocalypse Cow. So freaking funny. Loved it. Might do a review on that later. And I like a lot of Stephen King. But I also read fantasy and supernatural stuff. I have a lot of manga. Don't read as much of that as I used to, but I do have a lot of it. And comics, of course. Always gotta love comics. So the answer is yes, I do read a lot, just probably not as much as I should, being a writer. So that's it. That was the last question. A nice little variety of questions there. I really enjoyed answering them. Thank you to everybody who asked a question. I had a lot of fun with this, and I hope to do more Q&As in the future. Obviously, I'll give it a little bit of time first. But that was a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed it. So, big thanks to everybody who asked a question. I hope you were satisfied with the answers. It was definitely a lot of fun. And thank you very much for watching. Make sure you think of some questions for next time. And definitely keep coming back for more of Tracey's Basement. And this is the part where you guys can give me some love. If you liked the video and you want to watch some more, here are some of the more recent ones. And if you enjoyed the channel, please give me a big thumbs up, subscribe right below. Please keep coming back for more videos. Bye!